Do you ever feel like you're just spinning your wheels? You're putting in all these hours, you're doing all the things to build your dream business, but you just keep hitting these brick walls that leave you feeling like a total failure. Maybe that's the big project that just fizzled out, or that business idea that went nowhere, or even a habit that you couldn't seem to make stick for more than a week. Every setback, it feels personal, doesn't it? It feels like this final verdict on what you are capable of. Well, what if I told you that every single one of those failures is actually a secret weapon in disguise? What if all that frustration was just raw material for your biggest breakthroughs? It is. In this video, I'm going to show you the one simple mindset shift that will turn your biggest flops into your most powerful fuel. And it isn't about chanting affirmations or just thinking positive. Those are great, but this is actually a practical framework for turning painful lessons into a concrete plan for winning. So if you're tired of feeling stuck, stick with me. Now, before we get to the fix, we have to be honest about why this stuff hurts so much. When we fail, it stings. It's not just a minor bump in the road. It can feel like a direct hit to our ego, to our identity. Why? Because so many of us, we were brought up to see failure as the opposite of success, a dead end. It's that stop sign at the end of the road. So this creates this paralyzing fear of being judged for not being good enough. And that fear, it's a trap. It makes us internalize everything. The project didn't fail, I failed. The business didn't flop, I am a failure. We fuse the outcome of who we are to that failure. It's the difference between saying, I feel sad right now and I'm a sad person. One is just this temporary feeling, the other sounds like a life sentence. And when we treat that failure like a permanent part of our identity, that's when we get stuck. We stop taking risks, we stop trying new things because the thought of failing again is just way too much for us to handle. It's that cycle that kills our productivity and convinces us that our goals are impossible. Today, we're finally going to break that cycle. All right, here it is, the single most powerful productivity hack I've ever come across. And it's the one shift that changed everything for me, and I think it will for you too. Failure is not who you are. Failure is not a final judgment. Failure is just feedback. That's it. It's that simple. It's that profound. The second you stop treating failure as this report card on your self-worth and start treating it as neutral objective data, everything changes. A botched launch isn't a sign that you're incompetent. It's just feedback that your marketing message was off. A workout routine that you bailed on after the first week doesn't prove you're lazy. It's just feedback that the routine didn't fit your lifestyle. When you mentally replace the word failure with feedback or information, you suck all the emotion out of it. You go from a place of shame and blame to a place of curiosity and strategy. This isn't just a play on words, it's about rewiring your entire approach. It shifts you from a fixed mindset where your skills are what they are to a growth mindset where every challenge is a chance to get better. People with this growth mindset see every setback as a necessary part of getting good at anything. They know their abilities can be built with effort, which makes them incredibly resilient. Adopting this failure as feedback model is just step one. Now let's get into the how, the actual framework for turning that feedback into fuel. I call this the failure fuel framework. I know it's a tongue twister, but it's really a systematic way to take the raw data from a setback and turn it into the energy that is going to move you forward. Now, it's 5 different mindsets that you can put on one after the other to handle any challenge in your life or business. The first thing you do after a setback is you've got to put on your lab coat and become a scientist. Your life, your project, your goal, that's the experiment. And the result wasn't quite what you predicted. A good scientist doesn't just smash the beakers and call themselves a fraud. They get curious. They detach emotionally and they start to analyze the data. This means separating your identity from the outcome. You are not the results. Ask objective questions. What exactly went sideways here? What were the factors? What was in my control and what was out of my hands? What assumptions did I make that turned out to be wrong? By focusing on the what and the how, instead of blaming yourself or others, you get your ego out of the driver's seat and you're not looking for a scapegoat, you're looking for the broken piece in the machine. This clear-headed analysis is what is going to take you to that next step. Now, once you've looked at all the details, it's time to act like a strategist and actually zoom out. One lost battle doesn't mean the war is over. It's just one setback and one single point in a much larger timeline. So ask yourself, in the grand scheme of things, how much does this really even matter? In 1 year, in 5 years, look how far you've already come from where you've started. This is all about perspective. And that perspective, it's your best defense against quitting altogether. It reminds you that failure is almost always temporary. It's not a permanent state of being. Think about it kind of like a stock chart. There's going to be dips, and some of those dips even look a little scary. But a good strategist, they keep their eye on the long-term upward trend. So this flop right now, it may feel huge, but a year from now, it's just going to look like another dip that taught you a critical lesson and set you up for a much bigger win. It's all about seeing how every setback can be the setup for a comeback. Now that you have some perspective, it's time to be your own coach. After we fail, our inner critic tends to grab that microphone and start shouting about how we're not cut out for this. Your job as a coach is to walk over, take that microphone back. This is where you practice some tough love and some self-compassion. Instead of saying, I'm such an idiot for trying that, a coach says, okay, that approach didn't work so well. What did we learn? How did we get a little bit better next round? It's all about talking to yourself like someone you respect. A good coach knows that every stumble is simply a chance to build some grit and get a little bit smarter. You have to be your own biggest ally because if you're constantly tearing yourself down, you're never going to have the energy to get back in the game. By the way, if this framework is making sense to you and you're ready to stop letting all these setbacks call the shots, do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button. I put video out like this every week on practical habits and mindset shifts to help you build the business of your dreams, and I'd love to have you along for the ride. So the next step, this is where the real change happens. An architect doesn't just stare at an empty lot and wish a building would appear. They draw a detailed blueprint. Using the feedback you just gathered, you're going to build a concrete, actionable plan. And I don't mean just a vague promise like, I'm going to try harder next time. I mean specifics. Based on what you've learned, what are the next 3 small manageable steps you can take? So if your product launch failed because you misunderstood a customer, your next steps may be schedule 5 interviews with a potential customer this week. Create a 1-question survey for your email list, and then rewrite the headline on your sales page based on their exact words. So by breaking down the problem into bite-sized tasks, that's how you're going to get your sense of control back. This blueprint turns the sting of failure into a clear, productive path forward. You're no longer stuck in the past, you're actively building your future. Finally, you need to adopt the mindset of an elite athlete. Any serious athlete will tell you that motivation alone will fail you. It shows up only when it wants to. They don't rely on a feeling to get to training and get to practice. They rely on discipline and commitment to the process. Your productivity can't be held hostage by your mood. After a failure, it's completely normal to feel unmotivated. Don't wait for that feeling to come back. Just commit to the blueprint you just created. Your job today is to do one small step on that list. That's it. Rely on your plan, not just this random burst of inspiration. Discipline is just about showing up, especially when it's hard. When you take action, you're going to generate this new momentum. And that momentum, that's what's going to create a fresh wave of motivation for you, turning the whole cycle back in your favor. Look, this framework is powerful, but it's even better when you don't do it in a vacuum. Talking about this stuff is a key part of making your failure less of a big deal. Share your setbacks and what you learned from them with a trusted mentor, maybe a few of your peers, or even a supportive friend. When you talk about your failures openly, they start to lose their power over you. You're probably going to find out that most people, they've been through something similar and they can offer you some advice that maybe you haven't even thought of. Using a simple journal is also a great idea. Track your progress in an action plan and make sure you celebrate the small wins along the way. Acknowledging your effort, that's not just the outcome, that's what's going to reinforce the right habits, and it's going to keep you in the game just a little bit longer. So let's wrap this up. The fear of failure, that's one of the biggest things holding you back, just like most other small business owners. The reason you can't build the business you desire is because of those fears. But here's the hack. Failure itself isn't the enemy, it's the instruction manual. The one mindset shift you need is failure isn't a verdict, it's simply data. It's the most valuable feedback you will ever get. So when you hit that wall, don't let it stop you, let it be a sign. Use the failure to fuel framework. Act like a scientist, detach and analyze that data without any drama. Act like a strategist, zoom out and look at the long game. Act like a coach. Talk to yourself with respect and demand better next time. Act like an architect. Draw up a concrete blueprint for what's next. And finally, act like an athlete. Commit to the plan with discipline, especially when you don't feel like it. Every successful person you can think of has had to master this process. And they didn't succeed in spite of their failures. They succeeded because of them. They learned how to turn every mistake into fuel, and now you can too. What's one failure you can look at as feedback? Share your comments down below. I read all of them, and I'd love to hear what you're working on today. And if this video helped you, make sure you like and subscribe for more strategies to build a more productive and resilient life. Now, turn your setbacks into your strengths.